maybe we could start with the coordinators who are here and just remind us where you are joining us from, or if you're an affinity group coordinator like Shifra, I see Shifra on here. If you could just remind us, what affinity group you represent, since we're small enough that we can do that. Hi, Shifra.
You want
Um,
me to start?
sure.
I'm Lisa Gilliam. I'm from the Michigan chapter. I'm one of two coordinators for Michigan.
Welcome.
All right,
Cindy?
I
Oh,
was gonna say
Faith. Yeah.
I'll jump in next. I'm Faith Williams. I'm the Connecticut coordinator.
I'm Cindy Sandusky. I'm not actually a chapter or affiliate group coordinator. I'm on the board and I am the chair of the membership subcommittee.
Well, this should apply to you as well,
I'm
because a
hoping.
lot of the admin functions, I mean, it runs across groups, and so technically committees are also groups in your membership, so this should apply for you as well. Shifra.
Hi. I am one of the coordinators of the academic editing chapter. I'm happy to be here.
And you're
Thank
also
you.
on our edit committee. So,
Yes, I am.
yes.
Yes, I am.
Love the volunteer spirit on this call. But I'm actually going to turn this over to Kateri, who is our new community manager at EFA. So happy that she could join us early before we launch. And for those of you I don't know who's, oh, Faith, I think. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, for those of you who have worked with Mark Schaefer before, so Kateri's kind of like a combo of Mark slash Mia's position, but like we've rebranded it as community manager because that's what Kateri will be doing for us. So yeah, so she will be your primary contact at EFA for all chapter coordinator and affinity group coordinator questions. But obviously it's Kateri's first week on the job, so we're not like throwing her into the lion's den. And I'll be here too to help out because Mark and I were actually the ones who built the your membership backend site. So I might just have a little bit of insight to how we built the thing and where things live. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to my colleague, Kateri.
So a couple of days ago, you should have received an email like this, which goes through pretty much gives you the community homepage link, your username and your password, and then a link to today's session, which will also be recorded if you were unable to make it. So when you go to the homepage, you should see your dashboard that looks something similar to this. So some of the features that are really important that we want to highlight are the calendar, the forums, and the direct access to messaging. And to showcase all of the features today, one of the things that I want to do is I want to use the New York chapter as a template. So make sure when you go onto the website, you select My Chapter and Groups to access the search and not chapter and affinity group resources because it leads to a different page. So once you get to the New York City chapter, you can see that it has a welcome page where you can edit things that say like stay in touch, events, announcements, preview events, contact us. So to edit this, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to go to the top, you're going to go to admin, and you're going to go to homepage options. Once you get to homepage options, you're going to go down. You'll see a lot of HTML. Some of you may be familiar with HTML. However, if you're not, go ahead and select the design button, and you'll see a more recognizable form of communication. And you can use this to edit anything that you want to say about your chapter, any particular things that you want to list, whether that be announcements or ways to contact you guys and things like that. You can also change coloring and things like that. At the top here, you're going to see that these are the main features of the Your Membership software. You have a group directory. you have a calendar, you have blogs, you have forums, and you have a photo gallery. What we're here to stress today is how to use the calendar and how to use the forums. It's up to you if you want to do weekly or monthly blog posts for your chapter, or if you want to include any particular photos from events on your chapter profile. But so for example, if you're not going to be using the blog feature, you can just go ahead and take that off. Or if you're not going to be using the photo gallery feature, you can go ahead and take that off and it will remove it from the home page. So I don't know if we have any questions about that as of yet. But one of the things that I would like to show you is at the front here where you see that it says welcome. We are working with a graphic design company that's going to be designing the logos for each particular chapter. And here's an example of the logos. I think that they look very cool. I hope that you guys like them as well. So once these are finalized, it will be at the top of your welcome page to add a little bit of color. And then underneath the logo will be any of the wording that you guys decide that you want to add. Next, one of the things that's very important is including events. So on the right-hand side, you can go ahead and click calendar here, or you can click calendar at the top. And when you get to the calendar section, sorry, I gotta go ahead and move this over. You have an admin, and you'll click manage events. Now you'll see that when you are on the manage events page, you'll see that you have two options. You can add a new date or you can add a new event. I'm going to go ahead and explain the difference to you now so that you are familiar with both of these options when you're using the software. So when you select add a new date, you can think of it something like save the date. You just want people to confirm that this date, keep this in, your mind, whether it's, you're observing a holiday or it's a save the date or just a reminder about a deadline, something of that nature. Now, the second option is add a new event, which is the main part of the software. When you add a new event, you're going to be able to not only add a name and a description for the event, but you're also going to be able to generate an RSVP link and things like that so you can track who's attending the events, the names of the people that will be at the event, the emails and things of that nature. So it's very important that you select this option when adding an event to the calendar if you want an RSVP link. Now, the issue is that these particular events that you're going to be adding to the calendar on the membership portal page are not going to automatically show up to the general calendar. So just making sure that if you want the general public to be aware of something that's on your membership calendar, just alert me or alert someone on the staff, and they'll be able to ensure that the calendar is synced appropriately. Now, one of the third benefits that we would like to discuss today is the forums. So we'll go back. On the right side, under features, you'll see forums. So each chapter will have a forum titled General Discussion. It's really important that before the launch date of April 1st, that we put some type of questions or commentary in the discussion forum so that when members get access to their membership portals on April 1st, there's a point to start. They're able to ask questions, respond to particular questions that are in the forum, things like that. You want to encourage activity or encourage engagement as much as possible. And so it's best that you ask questions like, these are just example questions, but you can ask whatever questions are most complementary to your audience or your membership base. So you can add something like, what types of editing do you specialize in? Or what are your biggest challenges as an editorial freelancer? Any type of questions that would spark curiosity or spark conversation within your chapter. And you can list that under general discussion here, and you can just click add a new topic. Very simple. And then you'll just go ahead and start add a subject, type in your post, maybe add any particular images or files that you want to share, and then just submit the post like that. And then all of the members that are in your chapter will be able to go in and reply accordingly. Lastly, I want to talk about how you guys reach out with your members directly. One of the things that's really important with this new portal is how you're reaching out to your members. And with this portal, you're offered two options. So when you go to actions at the top here, you have two options. You can message all members or you can email all members. And they essentially offer the same service, but just in a different capacity. So when you message all members, you're going to be messaging them directly in the membership portal. So if it's just something like a quick announcement that doesn't really require a formal outreach or just a reminder or something of that nature, I would recommend using the message center in the portal because it's just something that's quick. Now, I spoke with your membership today and they mentioned that it's up to the member whether or not they'll receive email notifications about things that are messaged in the message center. That's up to the member. So if it's very important that you contact the member directly and in a very expeditious manner, then I would suggest the second option, which would be the email all members. And in this, you'll be able to essentially send out something along the lines of a newsletter. And you'll just, add your subject. You'll add your particular chapter. Mine looks a little bit different because I'm an admin. You'll type in your message and then you'll click preview and then you'll go ahead and send that out. So those are just essentially the main features that I wanted to touch on today, which was how to add things on the calendar, how to edit the forums, how to message members directly, and then how to add or remove some of the features that are on the member portal. So I just want to open up the floor now for any particular questions that you guys may have about what I talked about today. And if you have any questions about how you will be using the software in the future, that I can add to a spreadsheet and take back to your membership, because if I am not able to answer your question effectively today, I want to make sure that your question is answered. And one of the things before I give you the floor that I want to mention before I forget is under the directory of each chapter, you'll see that not a lot of people have their pictures. So we were able to import a lot of other information, but certain things were not able to be imported, such as the resume, such as pictures. So it's really important, especially when you're building a community, that there's a face a part of it. And so I think that's very important for the members to have a picture in their profile. So just sending out a reminder through the internal messaging or through an email would be great to encourage members to update their profile, make sure they have their current resume, ensure that their picture is up to date, and any other things that they want to add as they're transitioning to the new software. So I'll leave it there and leave the floor open for any questions that you guys may have as of now.
And one came from Cindy, which I think I can take. So Cindy is asking, do events link to Zoom, or do we still have to create a Zoom event? So I know, Cindy, you host a lot of our STET Talks, which are like open to all EFA members. So those kinds of events will go on our community calendar. So that is integrated with Zoom. So you wouldn't have to, create an event via the Zoom backend. It could just be created there. But then again, like anything that goes on the community calendar has to be put there by staff. So either Kateri or Ollie will be putting that on the community calendar for you. But unfortunately, the Zoom integration doesn't apply to groups. So yes, so chapters and affinity groups will still have to use the old system of, logging into the chapter Zoom or the chapter overflow Zoom in order to create their events. But when like you can obviously in the event description in the membership platform, when you create your event, you could put your Zoom link there, registration there as well. So let's see. The evergreen link for stat talks.
We don't require registration. We just let people, anybody who wants to come in. So I just want to make sure that we can still continue to do that, or is that going to have to change?
No, you should be able to do that. So, right, like something like Stat Talks. So just for everyone's transparency, we can set things on the community calendar to be visible to the public. Or only to members. And so something like Stat Talks, I think, will just be a member-only benefit. So I think you can keep an evergreen link for that. But there will be certain times, say, for instance, and you'll see more of this in that other page that Kateri showed you. It's called like chapter and affinity group resources. We are encouraging folks to obviously use some things and that we would also want to publicize on the main calendar, like if you have a speaker, so it's tax season, so if you have like a tax expert come speak to your chapter, and so that would be helpful to other EFA members or other freelancers who are not necessarily EFA members. We might even consider making that event public, um, and maybe charging people who are not EFA members a price to, like, a nominal fee to join that particular meeting. And so these are things that we can explore later on. But for those kinds of meetings, like, I wouldn't use an evergreen link for that because then people could just Zoom bomb you. So Shifra.
Okay, so I have a whole long list of questions. Uh, so let me see. I don't want to overwhelm if everybody else has questions. So let me just maybe ask a couple, and then maybe you can come back to me at the end. Um, my first question has to do with, actually, before I even ask my first question, I just want to say that I had posted something in the beta testers forum that I was having trouble uploading my photo to my profile, and I have not been able to do that. And that, so it's possible that other people may be having trouble with that as well. So that's something that we should attend to. Um, okay, so that's before I even get there. And then the other thing I also want to say is that we've got several people in the academic editing chapter who are involved with the various tasks and plans that are going to have to do with this new system. And I'm wondering if it would be possible to set up a meeting um, between either you or Kataria or with a group from our chapter to go over things at some point after, because I'm not going to be able to tell everybody everything. And okay, excellent. Okay, so then my next question has to do with the discussion forum and the directory. Um, so I just want to clarify, first of all, that the discussion forum for the chapter is a separate thing that is separate from Discord and separate from the EFA discussion board. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the plan, and this will be communicated to folks next week. We are actually going to transition out of use Discord will still be there for the folks, who
Mhm.
use Discord, but we obviously can't have too many like places where we're having conversations.
Mhm.
And so the great thing about this new system is that we'll be able to house things like what used to be the discussion list on Groups.io in this forum. So it is designed to replace the platform. And I know we'll be having meetings here with Lisa, Cindy, whoever else wants to join those meetings to make sure that we design it in the best way possible. Because obviously, like, change is difficult all the time. This forum doesn't work in the same way that Groups.io does, but we want to make it as familiar an environment as possible for folks. But that is the plan, is that it will replace Groups.io. But one of the things that we're going to do before that happens is obviously save all the archives, save all the,
I was wondering
the
about that.
files that we have in there, and yeah, and then the other thing that I've been having discussions with Jean Gazes about, who's the head of our external relations committee, is that we might repurpose some of those like very popular threads that were in the discussion list into something new, whether that's a blog post or something in the newsletter. Just so because we know they're popular topics, and actually for potential events too, we were thinking that if people really have a lot to say about like a particular topic, we might do events around those. So using that in or kind of like repurposing some of those things in other ways as well. So
That's great. So, okay, so that's wonderful. Here are my specific questions about the academic editing chapter for this. As you know, the academic editing chapter consi the way in which we categorize members of our chapter right now is anybody who has signed up for our newsletter. Okay, and within our membership, within our chapter membership, we have three categories of people who are not distinguished in any way, but I'm just categorizing them now for you. One are people who are members of EFA. One are people who are members of Editors Canada, but not EFA. And one are people who are not members of either organization. Okay. So one of my questions about the discussion forum is, will people who are not members of EFA be able to have access to this discussion forum that's on? And you're nodding, so I think the answer is yes.
So this is actually one of the things that I wanted to talk to Kateri and Autumn about.
Mhm.
So yeah, one of the reasons for why we made the distinction between chapters and affinity groups is because
Mhm.
of this. Like BIPOC
Okay.
chapter, I mean, well, now the BIPOC affinity groups, you have to get used to the new lingo. Um, I believe also function in the same way where you do not need to be an EFA member and they collaborate with other groups of editors to be able to like co-host events and all of these things. And so I think what I might recommend is that obviously, who these people are. So what I might recommend is that we have anyone who is not an EFA member sign up as a guest, so they don't have to pay, the EFA fee. And if they sign up as a guest, they have access to the affinity groups. So
Mhm.
that is, I think, the best solution so that they will still be able to have access to your group homepage and, be able to participate in discussions. Because even if we made that public, which, I'm leery for on certain levels, they wouldn't be able to participate in discussions. They can just see the page. But it's also good for us from like a data management perspective to also know who the people in, the chapters are, even if they're not EFA members, because that was also like a struggle that we were having on our side, on the staff side. So I think that might be the best solution, is that so they'll be in the system as guests, so they can access affinity groups, and also other things like the education newsletter, what's new, just, and then if they love it so much and also want to be an EFA member, it's is also marketing for us to be able to offer that to
I
guests.
like that. I like that solution. Can they, as a guest, be part of the directory for our chapter, for our affinity
Yes,
group?
because
Okay,
technically they'll be guest members. So
okay.
they won't have access to things like the job list, things that are like
Mhm.
EFA specific benefits. And chapters, we consider that also a benefit because, there's like an outlay for chapters because uh, you know, um, anyway, this like goes into too much of things, but also like that's one of the benefits that I think is a very big difference between us and say ACEs. ACEs doesn't have chapters,
Mhm.
robust
Mhm.
chapters the way we do. So I
Mhm.
see that as like a true member benefit. So I don't want to give like away the candy store, essentially.
Right. Okay. So the directory for each chapter or
Mhm.
affinity group is going to be a distinct categorization
Yes, that you can
of
email to
other.
directly. Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to be not, it's going to be separate, the same, the same profile, but the gathering on the website of
Hmm.
who's in there is going to be distinct from the gathering that's in the
In the
directory
main
that get in
directory.
the
Yeah.
main directory.
Yeah. So
Okay.
anyone who's a guest, because that's another
Mhm.
thing, like the member directory listing that's open to, potential clients is also another member benefit, right? Like you pay
Mhm.
for these benefits. And so
Right.
guests will be hidden from the
So
member
they'll
directory.
show up in the chapter or affinity directory. They
Exactly.
won't show up in the main. Okay,
In
that's
the main
great.
thing.
Okay. I think that it would be very helpful if we maybe schedule also a meeting separate, perhaps from the meeting discussing the platform, to discuss um, some of the things that are happening around us becoming an affinity group designation rather than a chapter. I think there's some things that our leadership team would find helpful to clarify.
Yeah. And we're still going through that ourselves. But I would say that Autumn and Kateri, and maybe Cindy too. I'm not sure. As our membership committee subcommittee chair, I think these are things that are still being ironed out. Like the differences and yeah, I mean, I'm not privy to some of these discussions that have been happening, but yeah, I know that's one of them, like from a functional perspective,
Mhm.
because we recognize that there are people who are outside the EFA who are involved in these groups. That was like the functional reason for why we separated out chapters and
Okay.
affinity groups. But there might be other things that are different, but I know we're still working through that. But for sure, like once we
Okay.
figure that out on our end, I am pretty
Okay.
sure that, of
Okay.
course, you'll be looped into those conversations.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I have actually a bunch more questions about the website, but I'm going to stop talking now because I've taken up a lot of time. So I want to make sure everybody else gets a chance to talk.
And I also wanted to reiterate, oh, maybe Kater.
No, I was just going to say that I put my email in the chat, Shifra. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me and we can
Great,
do a one-on-one. And then we can
excellent.
also schedule the separate meetings that you wanted to schedule, one for the platform and one for the distinctions with the affinity versus the chapter. But also I wanted to help you with your membership profile picture. So just shoot me an email and then I can walk you through the steps of uploading that. But also
Wonderful.
you can also maybe send me the picture and I can just do it for you, however way you want to go about that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's
You're welcome. And if anyone else needs my contact information, it's in the chat.
Lisa, do I see your hand?
Yes, thank you, Faith. Absolutely. I'm here to be of service. And we didn't want this meeting to take too much of you guys' time. So Oh, yes, Lisa, you had a question. Please go ahead.
I have a couple, and I hope they'll be quick.
No, absolutely. Take your time.
The first one relates to what Schiffer was saying about having members who aren't like in a geographic location. My Michigan chapter has quite a few people who like to join our meetings, and they're from all over the country. So, how can I add them to my chapter as, in my directory, or can they join? Do they have to, join it themselves, or how does that work?
Do you want me to take that one, Kateri?
No, sure,
I'm
absolutely.
only answering these things because I built it. Yeah, so it's designed right now so that any member can join whichever, because we also recognize like Chicagoland for example. There are people from like uh um uh nearby states that don't have like a specific chapter in their state, so they join Chicagoland. So we are allowing people, any members, to join whichever chapter they want to join. Like New Jersey, there's not a chapter there, so they can join New York or I think Philly, Pittsburgh, whichever chapters they're closest to regionally, they can join. So we just open that up for everyone. Of course, affinity groups open also to all members. And so when they're able, you can't sign them up for the chapter, but I would suggest, and actually this was something Terry and I were talking about earlier, is that maybe next week or the week after, when people have had a chance to learn the system a little bit, we might just send like emails based on like geographies or whatever, or like a general email to folks reminding them that they have the ability to sign up for chapters. Because as you can see, like as Kateri was showing earlier, there are already people who are in the New York chapter, for instance. And so anyone who officially signed up in the old system for a chapter, we were able to move that over, but it also made us realize it's like, wow, a whole bunch of our members haven't signed up for their regional chapter. So maybe this is an opportunity for us to just educate them in case they didn't know that they could do this. So
So
hopefully,
that's interesting. That brings up another question. I thought that the directory listed in my chapter right now in the new platform was everyone who's an EFA member who lives in Michigan. But that's not the case. So it's people who said previously in the old system that they
I
want
have a
to
chapter interest. Yeah, exactly.
chapter interest. Okay, got you. Okay. So
Yeah,
for the people who are some of our Michigan members who don't live in Michigan are core members. They're people who join
got
regular
it, got
spring
it.
meetings. So I would have to tell them you're
To
gonna have
sign
to
up.
go
Yeah.
through and sign
Mm-hmm.
up for Michigan. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my next question was on the chapter page. Um, there's a section that says group reps, and that would be the coordinators, right?
Yeah,
That's what
so
that's
it's
for.
it's kind of weird. Like, so they're group admins. So I would make anyone who's a chapter coordinator a group admin. So group reps, the way that the example that they give in the training manuals or whatever, it's like if you have a president, if you have, so it's like titles of people. So if and actually maybe Shifra, since the academic chapter does make distinctions between like types of volunteers, that might be something that you utilize. So, it's
Yes,
like
we would love to
the
do
event
that.
person, the blah. So it doesn't have to do with so group admins are the ones who can make changes to the page, like really administrators. And so I would make anyone who is a coordinator a group admin. But if you want to utilize that other function that I'm now forgetting what it's
Like
called,
group reps.
group reps, those are kind of more like titles. And let us know if you can't. do that yourself? Like I think
That's why I was asking. I thought that was for the coordinators. I thought it looks like it might have like, pictures with our names or something like that for the group coordinator or the chapter coordinators. So I was looking at the layout of the
mm-hmm,
page and I
mm-hmm,
went through all the admin drop down
mm-hmm.
options and I couldn't find a way to populate or to like add a title because it said something about people who have titles
Yes.
listed there, but
So
I
we
couldn't
might have
figure
to
out how.
do that from our back end. But again, if you shoot Kateri
Mhm.
a list of like, whatever titles you want besides, I mean, we could just make coordinator like one title, even though you will show up as a group admin on your page, like it has like a list of who the admins are. But we can make like a specific coordinator title and then anything that's like special outside of that, like Shifra, if there are distinctions of titles of volunteers within your group, we can do that for you on the back end so that it shows up on your homepage.
Yeah, I'm looking at what
Let
I
me
think is the
look at,
public facing Michigan chapter, and I don't see the coordinators listed anywhere.
okay.
So that's why I was asked, that's why I thought the group reps was for the coordinators because I don't see the coordinators listed anywhere. Um, so I was trying to go through and see how to assign like a coordinator title or something
Yeah.
to me and my co-coordinator, and I couldn't find
Yeah,
it.
maybe maybe and again, like I am kind of learning. I'm gonna go into the New York chapter and just see what's going on there. Um, so if I go into, oh, sorry. I guess I did not make myself an admin of that group, but yeah, we'll explore this a little bit more and figure out. I think we might have to put the titles on the back end, but you as coordinators can probably assign them, is my guess, but I'll just have to verify that.
Okay. And then I was also going through and I created a new event for our April
Mm-hmm.
meeting as a sort of test. And I had tried it with what's it called? Do you want to allow registration? I think it was. And I said yes. Um, and so that seemed to go okay, but then I received the confirmation and everything, and it looks sort of like that registration doesn't actually mean anything because somebody would have to sign up and register with Zoom anyway. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of curious, like what it and actually the email confirmation that I got for registering had a bunch of information about the EFA education, like webinars, and then or if you signed up for a class, here's what you need to do,
Interesting.
that kind of thing. So it didn't seem to actually apply to.
Yeah, could you forward me that email
Okay.
actually? I'd like to see what it looks like. But I know for yeah, for registration, I think some of it might be designed for like an in-person gathering and you want like a guest list or something like that. It definitely does not directly talk to Zoom. So if you wanted people to register for a Zoom meeting, I think you would still do it the old way, like in Zoom registration.
Yeah.
But that's something that we could investigate too. Like, what does that actually mean to sign to register?
I think that it means that I would be able to, so I was thinking through it afterwards because
Mm-hmm,
I changed it to be to say no, to not allow
yeah,
registration.
yeah.
And so then I changed it to where it has a Zoom registration link.
Mm-hmm.
But I think after I did that, I was wondering like what's it for? So I was thinking it through and I think what it would be useful for is if um, the registration portion of it might replace registering for Zoom because you can make a Zoom meeting without requiring
Yeah,
registration. So I think that it'd be good for that, except because then I could email all of the registered, people and send them the Zoom link through the
that's
your
true.
membership.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
But the email that I received as the confirmation would be the issue, because it seems like I said, it was geared toward the EFA education stuff, not toward chapter.
That's so interesting.
So
Yeah,
I
because
found
I
it after
know
some work.
that our education program definitely uses the events calendar, and we might not have realized that, the email, because Asher probably like yeah, if you could send that to us so we can see what it is, because Asher was using it obviously for the education program without maybe thinking there were repercussions for other groups that were creating events. So it would be great for us to see that email, and I can pass it along to Asher. But
Okay,
thank
yeah,
you for testing that out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known. And people would be like, why am I getting all this stuff about education?
yeah.
Um,
This doesn't apply at all to what I registered for.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
okay, so for right now, I'm just not gonna use it, and I'm gonna use the Zoom link. So
Sure. Yeah. And we can iron out those kinks. And that's why I'm glad we have beta testers, because then you're able to get in there and help us
so
identify issues.
yeah, the last question is that I thought I read somewhere, might have been in your last update, that the IO subscription is expiring at the end of this
Mm.
month.
Yes, although we have until technically 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks in April. Um,
So then the DL is going away
DL's going away.
and the membership
I
doesn't
had
exist yet, or
So I had been having this discussions with Autumn about like when to announce that to our members, and actually Jean Gazis also, Jean and I were like, we really need to tell them now because our members like really need to know this. But then I think like where we landed on was, you know, like we just have to accept that we're in a new system, I guess. But yeah, so I know that an email's definitely going out next week, kind of letting folks know that. But I also think that we will be doing the backups of everything that's in there. But since you're one of our beta testers, like if there are very specific things that you feel strongly about, and maybe concerns about like losing the DL, and like what things you would worry about in terms of like data and stuff like that, if you could just kind of post that in the uh discussion, this EFA discussion forum and the beta testing thing, just so
well, I
I
don't
mean,
really
yeah.
have any concerns about, since you're backing everything up, I don't really have any concerns about data loss or anything like that. My main concern
Hmm.
is looking at what happened when the DL was not taken away, but another communication form of Discord was added. There was a backlash even for that.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, my concern is that there some people who are have been using the DL for decades
Yeah, yeah.
are very loudly supportive of the DL. So I don't. My concern is that they'll feel like it's been ripped away,
Ripped away.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Hmm.
just out of nowhere, just it's gone.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
they'll feel, maybe disenfranchised or kind of abandoned. So
Yeah, I know. I kind
um,
of agree with you.
it,
Um,
maybe it's a small amount of
Well,
members,
that's what
but
Jean had
there's
mentioned. So technically, because I had mentioned, I'm like, hey, 41% of our membership technically are signed up for the DL. But then Jean, who has been, who was our discussion list chair, had mentioned that like of that 41%, the people who actually use the DL and in the ways that like uh, Cindy was mentioning where people just like email the forum and all of that, like the actual percentage within that 41% is about 10% of people who are actually active on the
Mhm.
DL.
Right,
And
so small,
so
their voices may be small, but they're
they're
loud.
they're
So
loud, I know.
I
Yeah,
don't
Yes.
want
I
to.
just want to jump in and say I absolutely agree with Lisa.
Mhm.
I've been a member of the discussion list since I joined the EFA, like I don't know, 2017 or 2016. I've never posted, but I get the digest and I read everything.
Mhm.
And it seems to me, it feels like an absolute integral part of EFA membership. And I just my understanding of this community and the ways that communities work in general, I think I think you might be surprised at
Yeah.
at, at the response that you're gonna
Thank
get.
you for raising that. And Cindy, I don't know if you've had discussions at the board level or with Autumn and Jean, because I think the first time it was actually mentioned to the board was at I want to say the February board meeting. That was
So
the first
I
time it was mentioned. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that our subscription is done like the end of the month. This is the first time hearing about it. So, and as somebody, I don't post a lot on the DL. I do periodically, but I read everything that comes across and I get information from it. So like Schiffer was saying, there's a lot of people who lurk
Mm-hmm.
and there aren't any.
Yeah, clearly yeah.
Yeah, and so you do have the vocal folks who respond to absolutely everything and have an opinion about everything, but there are a lot of other people out there who don't necessarily contribute to it, but they get a lot out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, I was totally unaware that it was this imminent.
Yeah, can we, I mean, I would love if you could advocate for that and maybe start a thread in the board groups IO, Cindy, if that's okay. Or maybe if you want to just like take it to Autumn too, and just put Kateri and I on that conversation because obviously like Autumn is a bit new to the EFA, so may not know like how how people love this thing. So
Yeah,
I
to clarify, I'm not
mhm,
saying that I think we should keep it forever. I
No.
had giving some kind, because it is a lot. We've got Discord, we got the DL, now we're gonna have the
mhm,
forums on it's a lot, so
yeah.
I don't think that we should keep it forever. But I think that telling people, a week or two ahead that this is gonna be gone in a couple days it might be a blow to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
Or maybe we can like phase it too, because I know that before we did an annual contract with Groups IO, we were on a month to month. So I don't know if we can go back to the month to month, just to be a little bit more thoughtful about,
even for one more month, I mean, I
yeah.
feel like,
Um,
telling people next week this is going to be gone is going to be, it would be a
and
lot worse than saying in June, we
mm-hmm.
won't have this anymore,
Okay.
that.
Good point. Yeah. Okay. So let me take that back to Autumn. And thank you for your for vocalizing that. And we'll probably explore some options. I mean, maybe one of the things that we might want to do so it's not I don't know. We'll think through it because again, I am worried about like, oh my gosh, so many places to communicate and what are we using? So I also don't want it to be kind of like even more confusing to folks. Um, so we should think through the rollout a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think even just giving 1 month would be
Mm,
sufficient time,
that's helpful. Yeah.
in
Also,
my,
if
and I guess it raises another question for me about what the emails are going to look like from the forums. Like, will people get a digest of like will it look somewhat similar? Will you get like, and that's kind of the concern I had about what I talked about with the forums earlier. Each of those, when I get a digest, it has the question and it says how many replies are included in
Mm-hmm.
this email, and then the next question. the way that the forums are set up right now, there's only one question, and it's the topic.
It's a topic.
And so
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
whatever people say under that won't be, you know, separated in any kind of way. So
Mm,
I think because I'm like Shifra, I'm a lurker. I've posted a few times over the years, but I'm mostly a lurker. But I do read it, you know, and
yeah.
I go through those topics, the questions people asked at the top of the email, and I say, am I interested in that? No. Am I interested in that? Yes. And I'll click, you know what I mean? So um I think if the new forums have something similar to that, that will email out to people like, you know, the lurkers even. The people who post often are, like you said, they're just gonna have to get used to a new system. But the people who lurk, you know, if it could
Mm-hmm.
be, I think the people who lurk are a bigger proportion than
Mm,
people who
mm,
post. So,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um, if the
Yeah,
emails could function in the same way, at least, you
I
know,
learned
where I
a new
can click
feature
on it.
today, and I wonder if it'll actually show up in today's digest, but you can quote um like whatever it is you're responding to, you can actually quote it. And I don't know if that shows up. So, it's like
Think
I
it would in a it wouldn't show
yeah,
up as a list of questions that have
questions.
updates in a digest.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't. It would
Yeah.
help to keep, if you're on the page, it'll help to keep straight what this person's answering to.
Mm-hmm.
But having each question be its own post is what will enable the emails to look like how they do now. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be helpful to, you know,
Yeah,
alleviate
so
some.
let us talk about that at our meeting, which might actually be tomorrow, because that seems to be the time that works for both you and Jean, I think you
Mhm.
said Friday. Um and we can work through that particular kink, because I'm looking at the time and it's 5:04 and we want to be respectful of your time.
That
But
was my last question. So
yeah.
But it's really
Do
nice
you
to talk through these issues and keeping us up to date about the bugs and things like that so that we're able to stay on it.
Shifra, was your hand up for like one more quick thing?
Two quick things. First of all, just about the discussion list. I just want to also add that I think that my sense was that many of the people who did not go over to Discord didn't do it because there were things that they don't like about Discord
Yeah.
that they do like about email. Okay. So one of the things is that they didn't want like another platform to have to go to. So
Yeah.
if there's a way to send messages by emailing, that will be helpful for people to know. I don't know if that is possible.
It's
Second
not in
thing,
this new system,
yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay. The second thing is, once you archive everything from groups.io, will those archives be searchable by people, or are they just going to be something that the EFA staff can access, but members will not be able
For
to?
now, I mean, we just have to move all that stuff out, with the plans to leave Groups.io. But we are creating like an extranet for members. And so that's a good point. I mean, we could even like make that available in a digestible format, or I mean, that's why we were thinking about like turning them into blog posts, or
Right.
something.
It's just
But
something like
yeah.
like the thing is that the Groups IO system now has, 30 years of posts that right now anybody who's interested in a topic can go in and I believe can go in and do a keyword search
Hmm.
and get up all the things. So losing that is like a
Yeah.
huge knowledge base. So something and that, having to just turn it into discrete blog posts, that's a lot of effort for a very small proportion of the amount of information that's in that database. So if there is a way to transfer the archive into a searchable database that's like, if there's a tech way of doing that, I don't know if there is, but I mean, I'm not sure if the people who are making these decisions are appreciating what is being lost. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that I mean, I understand that this is great that we've got a new system. And it actually sounds a lot like the CIEP boards, which I
It's
really enjoy.
probably very, very close to
Yeah.
CIEP. Yeah, yeah, because it's the
But
same. A lot of these membership platforms are built the same way. So
yeah.
CIEP is on a different platform,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it's like essentially
Yeah.
the same. We're on your membership, and I forget what they're on, but
Right.
mhm.
So anyway, so I just wanted to just mention that just to emphasize that the searchability of the archive is
Mhm.
something to take into account.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like we can't actually import because that was the other thing. I was like, is there a way to import all those conversations into this forum? And we can't.
Hmm.
But with this forum, a keyword search does work in this
Okay.
forum.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it clearly it warrants like a larger discussion. And like I said, Autumn's been with us for I don't know how many months and
Hmm.
does not recognize like how a lot of our members, well, 41% who signed up for the DL,
Hmm.
might have a really hard time with this. And so I will definitely,
Yeah.
Kateri and I will definitely take that back to her.
Okay. I have one last quick question. Um, when you said that the on the platform for the chapters,
Mhm.
there's a way to send out newsletters. I just wanted to ask whether you are thinking that we should be moving away from using like MailChimp to using this system or
Yeah, so I mean we can have like I think I know Kateri is going to schedule another meeting with chapter coordinators and affinity group coordinators in April. Is that right, Kateri? So you can delve into these kinds of needs further, but one of the pain points that I know for our chapter coordinators has been that they've had to use like a free version of MailChimp or whatever, like some other external platform to be able to communicate with folks. And so that was annoying. And so that's part of the reason for why we signed up for this was because you can communicate to your members
okay.
directly. But you know how it is when it's like in a sales call and they make all these promises. And so one of the things that I asked about was like a newsletter. Can our chapter coordinator send a newsletter from the system? Can they use templates? Promise during sales call, yes. So technically, people can sign up for your newsletter, but I believe the newsletter is just a digest. So, like if you post blogs, if you, it's just, it does it automatically for you where you can't actually design a physical newsletter. It's like only staff actually has access to um, templates. And so when you send an email to your members, it's going to be plain text. If they sign up for a so-called newsletter, it's really going to be, the group digest, as far as I understand. Um,
So that sounds like we've got a very, very well-defined, well set up official chapter newsletter through MailChimp. So
mm.
it sounds like we're gonna
And
need to continue that.
you can keep using MailChimp if that's what you prefer. I mean, I could see
Okay.
how some chapter coordinators who just don't have the time might
Mhm.
appreciate that like their members will still get a digest of everything that's happening on their
Absolutely.
homepage.
Yeah.
But it's what we've made available for you, and you'll see this in your group homepages, is that there's a way for you to export your member list. So you can put those emails in MailChimp, and it will always give you the most up to date. So if an EFA member drops off, you won't see their emails in the system anymore because they're not. Like you'll have a current list at your
That's great.
fingertips by using that export, but you would have to export it into a MailChimp or whatever it is you're currently using
Mhm.
to be able to send those nice looking newsletters. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mhm. But these are great questions because I'm sure the other coordinators are going to have the same questions. And it'll be good for us to maybe develop some resources in advance to answer, like an FAQ sheet to answer these kinds of things. So yeah, I'm sure Kateri and Ollie will, put their brilliant heads together and come up with resources to help our coordinators out. But again, let's give ourselves the grace. We're all learning a new system, and Kateri, it's her first week, so if we can just have a little patience with each other as we develop like the tools we need to empower you to do more things.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but thank you both for staying on and for joining us today. And we'll be able to share this with the rest of the coordinators. And yeah, please feel free to email Kateri with any other questions you might have. Since you're both on the beta tester team, you can continue to test and put your comments in there. Clearly, I look at them, and I'm trying to make the updates as quickly as I can. So yeah,
Thank you so much for doing this.
thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah,
Welcome to Kataria. And
Thank you
thank
so
you so
much.
much to for everything, all the work that's gone into this new platform. It's like such an undertaking and very much appreciated.
thank you so much, Shifra, and for your support. And there will be more trainings. The coaches have already asked us. It's like, are you going to do this for our members too? And said, yes, of course we are. We're not just going to leave you in the lurch. So yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. This was very helpful.
Oh, good. Good. Great. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.